Alright, hey guys, it's Clovis, and today we're gonna do some gameplay, I guess. I don't know, it's just one of those days I feel like playing and talking, and maybe uploading it later. This video, I'm just gonna be starting a new game and actually playing it through the perspective of, like, maybe a not-so-experienced player. I'm gonna be trying to guide people through things they should do as a new player. Yeah, basically, like, teaching you how to start the game if you're struggling. The first thing to note is you gotta pick one of the two sides, and if you pick the white rose side, it's a lot easier. So if you start the game picking the red rose side out and you think the game's way too hard, I recommend maybe starting a new game and trying the other side first. So when you get asked to enter your name, this is basically the game's way of getting you to input something that's gonna give you 3 random decks out of the... How many decks is there? I think there's 17. Yeah, so there's 17 starter decks in the game, and depending on what name you enter, you'll get 3 of those. If you ask me, it doesn't really matter which starter deck you have. Some are better than others, but like most of them are really good. If you know how to use them, most of them are capable of beating the game without actually modifying them. Apart from the, you know, the time you actually have to modify it to lower your deck cost, but... I have no idea, by the way, why I entered DDD as my name. Alright, so... Patrician of Darkness is probably, like, the strongest deck. This is probably a good thing to pick. I'm thinking it's either a really good or really bad pick. It will be counterintuitive to show people how to beat the game early by showing them they should just pick the most overpowered deck. But in saying that, it does have some really strong stuff that will be, I think, would be good to demonstrate to you guys to show a sense of power for, like, a player who has difficulty bringing out high amounts of damage. King Tiger Wanghu, probably a bit of a similar deck. I think the thing about Patrician of Darkness and King Tiger Wanghu is they're both sort of structured around the one archetype. Like, this is a beast deck, the other one's mainly a zombie deck. So, for majority of the starter decks, you have a similar set of monsters, and that's going to play into, like, if you want to get multiple copies and more synergy in the deck of your own cards, you definitely want something that's archetypical, if that's the word. Serpentine Princess is a bit different, though. It's a mix between reptiles and dinosaurs, and they don't quite synergize together. They're actually, you know, just as different as, say, Fiends and Spellcasters. Except in this case, reptiles aren't even strong on Wasteland like dinosaurs are. If you really wanted to, you could pick Serpentine Princess, get multiple copies of it. It has a really strong flip effect, but I think that'd be a worse demonstration than either of these other decks. I'm actually going to pick Patrician of Darkness, which, if you see this, if you're, like, starting the game for the first time, and you see this is one of the 3 decks, you probably want to pick it, actually. It's pretty good, but it's also, I think, fun to play. It's not like, you know, as a new player, it's not like the game's going to be ruined if you pick the strongest deck, you know. You still got to figure out all the ins and outs of the deck. You got to figure out what the enemy have, so you know how to play against them. The thing about, like, starting a new game, especially a difficult game like Duelists of the Roses, is... How do I word this? It's kind of like... There's a difference between you versus the game and you versus yourself. I think in this game you can understand the fact that the opponents are supposed to be a challenge and you're supposed to overcome that challenge. I don't think people really understood that when the game came out, though, but... It's kind of like a point I've wanted to make always. The game was, like, originally released, like, for sort of, like, teenagers, adolescents and stuff. Originally, when it was released in Japan, that's how it was marketed. But when it was released to the English-speaking world, it was marketed to, you know, kids that liked Yu-Gi-Oh! So, this is a game designed for, like, people between the ages of 15 and 20 to play, but most of the people that played it were, like, under the age of 10. So, what ends up happening is you don't get very far in the game because it's actually quite difficult for a new player, especially someone who doesn't have a lot of problem-solving experience. Alright, so here's where we get the option to choose what side. The main things I think of when picking a side would be, if you pick Lancastrians, you start against 2 duelists. One has a forest field, one has a wasteland field. If your deck is strong on either of those, you probably want to pick this side. That way you can have a good start into the game. Otherwise, if you don't think you're going to have a good time in Forest or Wasteland, you might want to start Yorkist. Yorkist is easier overall. The only real difficult duelist, if you start Yorkist first, would be Mai. But if you can get past Mai, you can probably beat that whole side of the game. And considering you'll have some stronger enemies towards the end of either side, you'll actually be able to get like really strong copies of really strong cards before starting and going back to the other side. So if you start Yorkist, you can really get a really strong deck before you move over to the Red Rose side, which will make it a lot easier. But of course, I'm going to start on the Red Rose side as I pick my zombie deck. The zombies are strong on Wasteland, so that'll give us a pretty significant advantage. And I'll let you guys listen to the sexy saxophone while I have a bit of a drink of water. Delicious. Of course, once I skip this dialogue, I can get a bit more into the ins and outs of stuff. Again, I'm not just going to rush through and just beat people one after the other. I'm literally going to show you how to start the game, because I think it's more important if I show a player how to get like a good footing into the game so they can figure out the rest of it themselves, rather than just walking them through the game. Because especially nowadays, like when you've got YouTube and everyone's doing Let's Plays, if you're going to look up a walkthrough to play the game, you may as well just watch someone else play it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to experience the game and see what it's like without actually playing it yourself, like figuring everything out yourself, then you may as well just, yeah, watch someone else play it, I guess. Alright, so Patrician of Darkness. What I always do when I start a new game, and what you should do, is look at your deck so you know exactly what is in it. What I do personally, I press L2 3 times, and then that sorts me by deck cost. And that gives you... It's not very accurate at all, but it's just a bit of an indicator of what some of your weaker cards are to some of your stronger cards. So, even though, you know, stuff down here actually has usefulness, like Curse Breaker is very, very, very useful. Violet Crystal is quite a strong power-up for your deck. You have a lot of zombies. The main thing is when you go all the way down, these are the monsters you're going to be playing quite a bit, or at least you'd think you would be. Throughout the game, throughout the next few duels, you'll start to figure out what's useful and what isn't. Generally, these higher star monsters are harder to play. If you're playing monsters constantly, you'll never have the summoning power to play these. On the contrary, though, a lot of your lower level stuff is very, very good for fusions. If you've played Forbidden Memories, I don't need to explain anything regarding the fusion. Apart from the fact there's like a few differences, like they did nerf some of them, or actually did the opposite and buff some fusion algorithms. A majority of, like, the bulk of the power of most of the starter decks is you fusing cards together. And zombies are very, 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 very good with fusions. You can fuse them with a plant, warrior, dragon. I'm definitely forgetting something, but you can actually do quite a variety of stuff with zombies. Oh yeah, Spellcast is another one. You can make Magical Ghost, but that fusion's not very impressive. But yeah, there's actually quite a lot you could do with this deck. Now, I could just tell you what you could do with this deck, but that would only tell you what you could do with this deck specifically. Then I may as well, you know, I'd have to go through every single one, and I actually do have a starter deck, ultimate starter deck guide video. But what I want to do is actually tell you how you can get information of your starter deck, so it doesn't matter what one you pick. You can pick any starter deck you want, and if you go into the custom duel and do what I'm about to do, you can get the same information and same benefit of the deck. So you don't have to do this before you start the game. If you want, you can go into a duel and have a bit of fun before you try this. But this is just something I really heavily recommend for most new players to give it a try. So this is basically what Custom Duel does. If you don't have any memory cards in the second slot, which, you know, usually is the case, you know, you just have the first memory card in with your save file, then it will load Deckmaster K, and what Deckmaster K does is, it's basically a copy of your deck. It's a complete copy. It'll play all of your cards, but using the AI, like the algorithm it has for playing cards, deciding what it wants to play, and that will actually show you fusions and demonstrate some stuff like that. Another advantage to that is also you can defeat this Duelist, and if you do that, it gives you the graveyard slot, so you can acquire multiple copies of cards in your deck. I've said this a few times before across my videos, but I really have to make a point of it out in this video because I think it's one of the most important things to do. I can't stress this enough. You can do this at any point in the game, so if you're not stuck now, you don't have to do it, but if you're getting near the end of the game, or the end of the side, and you're having quite a bit of trouble, you can always go back to any of the Duelists you've versed to farm cards off them, or I think it's even better to actually rebuild your own deck, and that way it's more personal, you know. You pick this deck because you like zombies, right? Well, now you can add more zombies in it, or, you know, of course you could go to bones and do it, but anyways, I'm rambling long enough for now. LP setting, you want to leave the same. If you lower it, the enemy stays the same, but if you raise it, the enemies goes higher. You want the enemy to just stay at 4,000 so you can defeat him quickly. SP recharge rate, though, by the way, yeah, if you're a new player and you don't know what this is, there's no, like, tribute summoning or anything in this game, so what happens is you get 3 stars, you regenerate 3 stars every turn. You start with 4, so, you know, it's kind of like how you can normal summon a 4-star card in your first turn, but then you regenerate 3 every turn. So, if you bump this all the way up to 12, which you can't do in the normal campaign, obviously, but you can do in this custom duel mode, that means every single time you open up a hand, you'll be able to play anything in your hand. And that's the same with the opponent as well, and that's very important because the enemy will just continuously play and fuse your monster cards, and they probably will never have more than like 3 or 4 summoning power, meaning they'll probably never actually play the stronger cards in the deck. But the way that AI works is they actually want to play their strongest cards, so if they always have the summoning power to do that, they always will play it. So if I give the enemy max recharge rate every time, then if they draw Great Mammoth of Goldfiend on their second turn, they will actually play it. And that's like the best card in our deck, so yeah, why don't we give this a try, shall we? Of course, you can do Wasteland or Yami, you can do any field that you please. I mean, you don't have to, if you really wanted to, you could do Meadow, but just having the field advantage makes this process a lot quicker. So as a new player, you'd use this mode to sort of figure things out. I'm going to quickly demonstrate to you guys how the enemy works. Normally to farm cards, you can just sort of pummel the enemy, but we'll give it a bit of time to play stuff because we do want to farm stuff out of it. So already we have a pretty good looking hand. Well, actually no, we don't. We don't have any zombies. I thought this was a clan zombie. So let's quickly talk about cards in our hand, because Fiends feast with plans, but we've got a Wasteland field, so I'm not really going to play that. But we have the max recharge rate, so I don't actually need to play any of these. I can just get rid of them in my hand. In a real situation, in a normal duel where you're not infinitely reviving something, getting rid of these means that you won't be able to play a strong monster next turn. So if this was like a real duel in the campaign, you probably wouldn't do that. You'd probably leave them in your hand until you can get rid of multiple cards, but yeah. So hopefully the enemy plays, yeah, there you go, that is exactly what I want to happen, actually. Deckmaster K and a few of the AIs in general will prioritize fusion, so basically when they open up a hand, they'll literally queue up everything that they think will be a fusion and play it, and this is very, very important. I'm actually very, very happy you guys saw a full hand fusion there, because now look what's happened. The enemy has dumped all this material to their graveyard. Some of this is very, very decent fusion material, actually. We definitely want those zombies. And Kagemusha, the blue flame, is pretty good as well, because for fusions, you just want the lowest summoning level possible. Because that way, you know, if you have... Say if you have 2 cards in your hand, you can fuse that have 1 summoning level, you've regenerated 3, you've spent 1, and the next turn you regenerate 3 again. as opposed to, you know, playing like a 4-star warrior that has 1,000 attack to make a fusion. You're chewing up through double the amount of summoning power, so... in saying that though, what did he fuse? Ooh. So yeah, this guy has a Great Mammoth out on the field. He's fused his Mammoth Graveyard with a Magical Ghost, which of course was a fusion of the Akakiesu and Zombie Warrior. Because yeah, you guys would have seen in this hand, you put two together and it creates the next one, then it goes to the next one, blah 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 blah. And that leaves with the Mammoth Graveyard and Zombies, unmistakably Great Mammoth of Gold Fiend, so... But we have ways of dealing with that. And again, the point of, you know, dueling against the AI is that they will demonstrate these fusions for you. So, if you duel the enemy and then they fuse that, you don't know what it is, so you attack that and it reveals it, then you suddenly know, you now have that information from the game that you can fuse a zombie with a Mammoth Graveyard. Sometimes you have to infer that information yourself, you have to do a little bit of research to figure out exactly, like, sometimes you need a certain amount of attack, or sometimes the card needs to be a certain amount of summoning power to make the fusion possible. But yeah, the whole point of dueling Deckmaster K here is that they're going to show you all those fusions. So yeah, I know that's Great Mammoth of Gold Fiend, which is 2200 attack, plus 500, so that's 2700, so I don't need to worry about it killing this. And I can actually kill him next turn if you watch, if you look, we've got 1200 plus 2800. Unless he blocks our attack here, we can actually just straight up kill him next turn. And there's another fusion, of course we can always go to the graveyard to check what it is. And the cool thing about checking the graveyard for that is actually, if you want a specific card in your deck, like for instance, we know we've got the Mammoth Graveyard in the graveyard slot already. If we kill that, we'll have Graveyard Mammoth in the graveyard as well, so we'll be able to get both of those cards, but only if we kill that. Here he fused Disc Magician and Skullstalker, which would have made Cyber Soldier. That's a card I don't particularly want. If you want that card, sure, you can maybe go over it. Although I don't think it actually appears in the slots anyway, so it doesn't matter. My bad. I'm just like kind of talking to myself here, but... Oh, this is nice. Actually, no, it's not. We don't have a zombie. We could make Sword Arm of Dragon with this, but again, this is all stuff you'll learn if you duel Deckmaster K. If you don't know the fusions, it does take a bit of time to learn them, so you kind of just want to play the game and figure stuff out as you go. But yeah, to demonstrate how this should really be going, I'm going to kill the Great Mammoth of Gold Fiend here. This is pretty much our prize card. It's our best card in our deck. So getting a copy of that would be very, very useful. It means we're twice as likely to draw it in the campaign mode, which is actually a very, very big difference. If you only have one good card in your deck, and that's one of the last cards you're going to draw, you know what I mean? Like, if you only have one card in your deck, and it could potentially be one of the last cards you draw, and you don't know until you're at the bottom of your deck, and exhausted of all your resources, so yeah. Wood Remains. So yeah, we can kill this and get a copy of Wood Remains if we so choose. I will disable battles, I kind of forgot. I skipped the last one without disabling it. Do we want Wood Remains though? Not really. It's actually not the worst card for our deck. But the graveyard already has like 10 or so cards in there that I kind of have to sift through to get the good ones, so I don't want to fill it up too much, or else it'll be really hard to see everything. So yeah, the card we really want is, I guess, Great Mammoth. We missed both times, but that's alright. Because again, you can always just go straight back into the duel and try it again. Which is what I'm going to do. Maybe just one or two times. If this part's boring for you, you can always flick through and skip until the graveyard slots or like the deck construction bit if you guys really want. I know these videos are long and not very organized. That just makes it a lot easier for me, if I'm totally honest with you. So I don't feel bad if you guys want to skip through a bit of the stuff and flick through. The important stuff is kind of the deck construction bit, but we'll get there eventually. Again, you guys always can... just keep dueling in Deckmaster K. You can do this yourself. The cool thing about this game, you know, stuff like farming in Deckmaster... Like, farming in any game, or just farming Deckmaster K in this game, for me personally, it's just great to have, like, a YouTube video, like a podcast or something in the background and just kind of farm. It's just a nice little comfy thing I like to do, so... so now we can have a look at what he's played again. This is a great thing about Deckmaster K. And I'm actually really happy I picked this deck, because it seems to be one of the better decks at just spamming fusion. So Goki Bore, insects don't really fuse in this game, so we'll go... I'll probably bring that up again when we're constructing the deck. We don't really want insects in our deck at all. Obese Mum of Nefarious is not too flashy either. You can fuse it with a machine to make Dice Armadillo, but it doesn't do much else for the deck, so... Skull Servant, though, very good card for our deck. A lot of the zombie fusions are exempt from level requirements, except Pumpkin. So, if you have, you know, only one summoning level, with like, you could fuse it with a 1 summoning level warrior, or like a 1 summoning level plant, and get a pretty decent card out of it, without chewing up too much summoning power. Holy crap. Dragon Zombie is an awesome card. A really notable thing about this is actually the low deck cost. It's 16 deck cost, which is, you know, very low. Compare it to some of these other cards, but it's a lot more powerful. And it's also very good fusion material. If you fuse Dragon Zombie with a zombie, any other zombie, it makes Skullgun. So that's what this card is, and that's actually a pretty cool card. I'm actually considering going straight for it if we have the damage to take it out. Doesn't look like it though. I'm going to keep my dragon, though. So I'm kind of baiting him into attacking here. This is all stuff that I just kind of do. You don't have to think too hard about it. I'm just kind of like... I kind of play... There's a certain way I play because I know how the AI work, and I'm expecting them to do certain moves based on what I'm doing. That power-up there is very good. Obviously, he's going to destroy us here, but... that power-up's really good, because that means he now has a power-up in his graveyard, and we really want that power-up. We definitely want that power-up. I'm going to move this out the way, and we're going to Curse Break this. So yeah, Curse Breaker, this is a very useful card for new players, so I may as well bring it up now. It's useful at all points in the game. It cancels all Spellbind, power increase, and decrease effects. And that works on you or your opponent's monster. So, if the enemy have, like if they've used a power-up on their card, you can just hit it with this and it takes the power-up off. And yeah, that works. Like, it actually scales really good towards the end of the game, because a lot of the better duelists are actually the ones with more power-ups, and like buff abilities, so... You can see we're kind of getting destroyed here, but it's all good. We have Great Mammoth in the hand, so... So there you go. He gets Curse Broken, and then his attack goes back to what it should be. It is still added 500 because of the Wasteland terrain, but he no longer has that power-up bonus, so yeah. Still not getting any, Still not getting any zombies, so we're just gonna have to keep dumping stuff. So sometimes this process does take a bit longer. You notice that first duel we got through straight away, but here I kind of made some weak moves, not really dumping enough. But yeah, it's not like I'm in doubt. Like, I know I have this entire situation under control, so... If I didn't, I mean, if he won, you could just start dueling again. There's no penalty for losing, so... Holy mother of shit. I just really want a zombie. Just watch, I'll get a zombie next hand. I'll get 4 zombies next hand, something like that. At this point, the graveyard slots are probably already full for the 3 in a row. See, there's heaps of cards there. There's a Mammoth Graveyard as well. Hopefully that shows up. Would be really, really nice to get that. Because then, yeah, you can fuse it to make the... Told you I'd get 4 zombies. Yeah, you can fuse it to make the Great Mammoth. And I think that's actually a more efficient way of playing it. Think about it. If your deck is full of zombies, then for the Mammoth Graveyards you have, that's a way of playing Great Mammoth, a Gold Fiend for 3 stars instead of 6. Also, you might think it's like a bad thing to chew through resources, like if you use more material to make a card, but I disagree. It actually makes you cycle through your deck faster. 40 cards is more than enough to beat any opponent in the game, so you don't have to be too worried. Oh, cool. Don't even have to hit the enemy directly to beat them. You can just sort of bait them into moving towards you into attack position, and then just take out their monsters. I'm actually going to do that right now. I'm going to let him attack me. Hopefully that's not too strong and it kills me. If it does, I don't really care. That's interesting. I think maybe that's the Great Mammoth of Gold Fiend. Yep. This is actually what you want to do. If you ever see that situation, you still want to kill that monster because now their Great Mammoth is in their graveyard slot. So you have a chance to obtain it. Zanki, not a very good card. We'll get a bit more into that in a second. I did briefly mention all those cards that have higher summoning power that aren't particularly useful to your deck are better off getting rid of. The only thing this is doing in your deck is it's a 1500 attack monster that has a lot of deck cost, no effects, it costs 5 stars to play. I would say this is like the least efficient. It's probably like the worst card in the deck actually because there's just nothing you can really do with it. What I'm going to do now is actually bait him into attacking this card. So I can go over it with Great Mammoth of Gold Fiend. I shouldn't really be teaching newer players, people who are trying to learn the game, to do dirty tactics like this, but... for farming Deckmaster K, I would recommend, you know, if you want to make the process a bit faster, go crazy. Alright, maybe I don't want to use Fiend's Hand because that will kill the enemy monster and I can't capitalize off of that. So, we'll just do Zombie Warrior. And I'll actually put this here. So if he destroys this, I can just attack it with that. But if I put it here, it might, like if I put this card here within the range of attacking these, it might scare them into defense mode. So you kind of have to play a bit of a tactical game. You're not really trying to win, you're trying to play like a certain type of game here. You're trying to get the enemy to do what you want to do, not just beat them. Skullbird is another example of a card that's not particularly that useful in this deck. You have no support for Winged Beasts or anything. Shadow Ghoul, though, that is a very, very good one. We probably want Shadow Ghoul. Shadow Ghoul is quite high deck cost, but for casual play, I think it's a very, very, very good card. Alright, I'm going to kill this first, I think. Oh, look what we drew. Skullbird. You know what, I'm actually just going to stick a power up on the Great Mammoth and do this. See how much this damage will do. Cool, so now, if the graveyard hasn't stopped picking up extra monsters to slot over, then we now have 2 Great Mammoth in the enemy's deck, plus the Mammoth of Gold Fiend. Sorry, I always confuse the 2 names. Mammoth Graveyard is the fusion one, so we got a Mammoth Graveyard and then 2 Great Mammoth of Gold Fiend. And yeah, he'll be dead next turn, so we can finally wrap this duel up. I'm hoping to get something good in the graveyard slot so I don't have to do another one of these duels. I'm not going to sit here and constructing the whole deck, because you can do that in your own time. Create like a perfect deck for yourself. Apologies for the burps. If you're watching at this point into the video, you probably don't care. You're probably asleep, actually. Alright, let's take our time with this one, actually. That worked out. So we didn't get the Mammoth Graveyard, but we've got an equip card. That's exactly what we want. It's probably better because that's going to show up less, I think. Yeah. Well, we got Class Clown. We don't really want any of these cards except the Violet Crystal. So I'm probably going to do one more duel. Usually what happens is I do 1 or 2 duels where I get like no cards that I want at all, and then one duel I get like literally all 3 of the cards are like cards that I want. And I only really want to demonstrate this so I can teach you what to avoid or what to do more of as a new player in terms of deck construction. It's just such an important part of the game. Important. God damn. Alright, let's do Skullgon. We're just going to charge at the enemy. The good thing about this Deckmaster K setup is most of the starter deck leaders are actually obtainable from the graveyard slot, and if that's the case, then you can just defeat the Deckmaster K and the deck leader will automatically show up in the slot, so we can get multiple copies of Patrician of Darkness if we just defeat the Deckmaster K here. And as always, it's probably a good idea to look what's in their graveyard. So there's not even a single zombie card here, unfortunately, so probably want to wait until he plays something. Hopefully he dumps another hand worth of fusions here. Don't know what that is, but we're going to get a free hit in here. That way we can just finish him off whenever we want. We'll just attack it again with a 2000 plus attack monster. Once we're ready, you know, once we have a couple cards in the slots that we actually want to get. There we go. Knew that was going to happen. Perfect. So probably want to get rid of this card and try and get in the slot, so I'm going to keep the plant. Oh, you bastard. I should have remembered that card was Dice Armadillo. Yeah, you see, that's why we did the little bit of damage before, so now in an emergency situation, we can just attack him directly next turn and just finish it off. I am hoping to draw something on the next turn, though, that will let me kill this so I can get it from the graveyard slot. So obviously he's going to attack me directly there, but I have full life points, so I can take a hit there. And now we're actually in a very interesting situation. So what's happening here is he didn't move forward because this card can technically, like if this card was on here, this card would be able to move and attack it. So this guy thinks it's smarter to stay where the weaker monster is. In that case, he's not going to move. So I can actually kind of just sit here and sort of just kite this Great Mammoth until I can kill it. It's kind of like catching Pokemon, isn't it? Like you... Oh shit, didn't expect him to do that. He's going to move now, but he shouldn't actually move his deck leader, I don't think. Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, he never actually blocks the path there, so Alright, so I don't know what this is, but I'm going to move over anyways in case it's something I want. Cross Clown, no it isn't. Already have way too many of these. I don't like it because it's 4 stars. That's my reasoning. I'm sticking to it. Cool. So we've got the fusion we've wanted. We've got the Great Mammoth fusion. Any card that's strong enough to kill this would have worked. So basically we can just attack it. Both cards die. Our best card gets sent to the graveyard, and now we can finish the duel because we have a chance to get that card now. So not a very good result from the enemy here. They did play mostly cards we didn't want, but I'm hoping we can get that Great Mammoth. You've got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. So, you can get lucky, you can get unlucky. I don't know what else to say to you guys. But I do feel a bit stupid trying to show you guys and demonstrate how to improve your deck and then getting a bunch of pretty much trash. Phantom Ghost is not bad. Violet Crystal, pretty good. Violet Crystal is actually one of the better cards, so why don't we go in here, and what you can do as you farm is get rid of cards you don't want, ones you know you're not going to need, and replace them with cards that you are going to use. Phantom Ghost is very good for fusions. Violet Crystal obviously powers up any zombie we play. Shadow Spectre, that's pretty good for fusion actually, so you can take out a Cross Clown. Skull Stalker, I don't know if I really want Skull Stalker. The cool thing about taking out higher deck cost cards is actually you can reincarnate these, which we're going to do a bit later. I think I'll probably do a few duels, and that will be the video. Because I don't want to demonstrate how to beat the whole game, I just kind of want to demonstrate how to start it. So we're definitely going to go into a normal duel. Again, you can spend as much or as little time altering your deck in that mode as you want. I wouldn't actually bother really going in there unless you think you need to. I just think, I don't know, I have a lot of fun customizing the deck. I think it's cool for a new player to be able to make the deck theirs rather than just a deck that the game's given them. Because, you know, when I first started the game, I felt a bit cheated I couldn't make my own deck. I wanted to put all my own cards in it, but it didn't happen. So anyways, before I mentioned, if you start Red Rose side, you have the option of a Wasteland field or a Forest field. This is going to demonstrate to you how powerful, how much of an advantage terrain actually gives you. The 500 points bonus plus the movement is insane, especially in the campaign mode. You'll find a lot of the times you're overwhelmed or you defeat someone is because of field advantage. And you notice that because all zombies in our hand will have 500 more attack just like they did in the custom duel because this entire field is just like that, so... Alright, so, kind of what you want to do, the dream you want to do, the dream you want to achieve is basically destroying the enemy. The best way to do it is attacking them twice directly with something that's 2000 attack or above. Seems a bit specific, but A, you're never ever going to, like if you're just starting the game, you're not going to be able to just create a 4000 attack beater. If you knew how to bring out 4000 attack in this game, you wouldn't be watching this video. So, as like a new player when you're starting out, the most realistic situation, the most realistic yet achievable goal is to attack the enemy deck leader twice with 2000 attack. If you don't have as much damage, then you know you might want to seek other solutions, but you can use other cards like burn cards like Ukazi. Another cool thing about playing spells is that you don't actually lose any summoning power if you do that. So what I'm actually going to do, because this hand, I can't create anything particularly strong. What I can do is just take the advantage of starting first and just get rid of some cards. So here's what happens. My summoning points drop down from 4 to 3, right? But I have the first turn, so... if you just pretend you have the second turn, right, he's going to start with 4 stars just like we did. But when it goes back to us, we're going to draw 2 more cards and have 6 summoning stars. So yeah, starting first is actually a massive advantage because the enemy doesn't get 3 free summoning stars, or like a free draw or anything. They get the exact same start you do, so if you want, you can just skip your first turn and... A funny thing about Sword of Dark Destruction, by the way, you can't really put that on anything in this deck, so it's kind of pointless. Again, if you always want to, you can read the effects of your cards, and, you know, you can just sit here and use Pumpkin and level up your stuff if you want. To me, though, that is a bit of a boring way to play. I prefer to play aggressive. I think it's more fun, more risk-reward. And in saying that, now that I've moved this forward this way, I'm actually going to move my guy to the right. You kind of want to overwhelm and surround your opponent. I think playing aggressive and being confident is the key to this game, and that's why new players have such a hard time playing the game, because they kind of just sit back and let the enemy do what they want. And that's the only situation where the opponent's actually going to ever be able to do what they want, is if you just sit back and let them do it, so... Okay, so, here's a little fusion tip. You know how the fusions usually have, like, attack damage prerequisites? If I fuse a warrior with a zombie, it will make, armored zombie. Sorry, not armored zombie, skeleton warrior. So you probably want to make the stronger zombie first, so you can fuse that stronger zombie with a warrior to make armored zombie and get more damage out of it. In the case of fusing a zombie with a warrior, you'd make 1200 attack zombie, you'd fuse that with a spellcaster and make a 1300 attack zombie. Instead, what you can do is fuse the zombie with a spellcaster to make a 1300 attack zombie, which is higher than the threshold for skeleton warrior. So when you fuse a zombie higher than 1200 attack with a warrior, and it will make armored zombie. I know that sounded very contrived, but I just kind of wanted to show you that fusion choices kind of matter. So I'm kind of attacking blindly into the opponent, but remember, it is the first opponent, and my cards have 2000 attack, which I think is a fair chunk of damage. There is all the possibility he can destroy these cards, but that's not really, you shouldn't really be worried about what the enemy are doing. I think as a new player, you actually want to worry more about what you're doing. There you go, Eternal Rest, so that's something Rex can do. If you play Wasteland cards, he can play one of his cards that destroys your Wasteland monsters, which is very, very, very devastating in some situations. Like, imagine you have 5 monsters on the board, and he clears that. Maybe they were your strongest cards, you know, so he's wiped out all your strongest stuff. Seems like a very powerful deck, but I just want to let you guys know that, you know, now that this is in the graveyard slots, if we beat him, we have a chance to get it, and we also have a chance... that means we can also, you know, use it against anyone else who may eventually happen to have zombies, if there's any of those opponents. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So, my point is, guys, I don't want you to feel discouraged, like, if anything like this happens. If the enemy does something that is completely devastating towards you, remember, you could potentially get that card from that opponent if they've used it, so you kind of actually want the opponents to use really strong stuff, in my opinion. Alright, I'm actually going to lay some Yami down, I think. Actually, I don't know. If this is a spell card or a trap card, I don't need to move it. If they put a card in defense at a certain position, it's more than likely it is a spell or trap card. And that means you can actually get past it, which is pretty cool. But no, it was a monster. Probably just had in defense because that card was stronger than it, but it doesn't really matter. We can always bail out, you know. We have spell cards like Dimension the Hole. We don't really have much to worry about here, so... You can see it's just dumping galore. So now that he's forking down this road, we kind of have an option here. We can just brute force this. But you know what? I'm actually going to play a card down this way so I can choke up this point, and then I can activate my Dimension Hole to the left. Because if I just did that and pursued him from this way, he's just going to infinitely move around. He's just always going to move away from the card, so you kind of do want to trap him here. And you know what the really cool thing about that guy already using Eternal Rest is? Again, as I said, like, anytime the enemy do something devastating, like, don't worry too much. He's already used that card, so he's not going to be able to use it again. So he actually has no way of destroying Great Mammoth of Goldfiend unless he brings out something that has more damage than that. And 2,700 is a lot, you know. It is quite a fair chunk of damage, so... Kind of need to be patient here, make sure you don't do anything you may regret. We'll just put a Fiend's Hand here in defense, and maybe we can draw something out a bit more powerful next turn. In the meantime, though, I'm just going to keep pursuing him. He's already at 2,400 health, life points, so he's not very strong. He's potentially a hit away from dying, actually. And yeah, sometimes the enemy do make mistakes, so that's another thing I kind of wanted to say about not panicking, is you could be in a really bad situation and the enemy could just completely destroy themselves. So the reason why I played Fiend's Hand here is when destroyed in battle, it destroys the opposing monster. As a new player, this is going to be your only way of getting rid of like the enemy's ace boss monsters. So I had that in defense, so if he went to attack me, he would die and this would clear the path. Instead, what he does is clear the own path, so I can sort of kamikaze this card. If you go in blindly like that, you can lose a lot of life points, but I kind of had a feeling he wasn't going to play anything too strong. The effect is a guaranteed way to get past that, so now that I've done that, I can actually... I guess I'll have to do Dark Assailant. Dark Assailant with a Violet Crystal is the best thing I can do in my hand, so... Go ahead and hit him with that. Like, in a situation like that, you didn't have to play the equip card, but you always may as well do it, because if he plays anything between 1,800 to 2,000 attack, then it would have actually made all the difference the next turn. And we got him to play Red Medicine. So you can get that in the slots if you want. 500 life point recovery, 6 deck cost. Spell cards like that are low deck cost are always useful to have because the game will force you to lower your deck cost. At some point, so yeah, you kind of be forced to replace your high deck cost cards with lower deck cost ones. But to be fair, some of the lower ones are some of the more useful ones in the game. So I'm actually going to try and get Eternal Rest. Not guaranteed, of course, but it will be very nice to just have a high deck cost card. I can't actually see it. I'm like, my eyes are going crazy here. Missed it by 1 again, and we're going to miss it by 1 again. I knew it. I knew it. So this card's not very good. I'm having terrible luck with the slots today. I haven't really gotten anything that I actually wanted. But, you know, that's sometimes how the game goes. You don't always get what you want, so... Alright, so the theory is here, remember we talked about the zombie advantage on the Wasteland and the Yami? Conveniently enough, we've actually opened up a Dark Field and another... This looks like a Meadow, but it's actually Wasteland. The enemy side of the field is Wasteland. Basically, the point of this is we can freely duel these 3 targets now from the start of the game, right? No matter how difficult they are, you can duel them as many times as you wish, and you can get good copies of cards from them. You can get copies of Yami from him. You can get copies of zombie cards from this dude. So why don't we go ahead and do that? So yeah, for instance, if we had a Fiend deck, like if we had the Cruel deck or something, you can always go straight to Darkness Ruler, but in this instance, we have a zombie deck. So it makes a lot of sense for us early on to actually duel against a zombie deck, so we can try and obtain some of his cards off of it. Some of the useful zombie cards in the game that we didn't get in the starter deck. Alright, so we've got a pretty good starting hand now. I feel a bit bad doing strategies like this, but if you open with a hand that has a spell card as powerful as that, you probably want to use it. If you have Dimension Hole plus your strongest card that you can just go and attack the enemy directly, I definitely would take the opportunity to attack them directly. You can always duel them again if you thought it was a bit unfun to do that, but in this situation, I'm just going for it. Clown Zombie is a pretty good card. I did talk about Crass Clown before being not very good, but Clown Zombie, 2 stars, and 14 deck cost. You can really just stick multiple copies of this. They're great for fusion material. If you can't fuse them with anything, they just bring out damage at low summoning level. So yeah, this card and Armored Zombie and Dragon Zombie are really, really good. So right now we could actually just attack him directly and win with this, but if we want, we can kill this or this card. So what I'm actually going to do is attack this. I don't know what it is, but you're wrong. So yeah, we should have just attacked the Clown Zombie. That's a much better card. But I just wanted to see, just in case. But we can just always just end the duel here, get a few cards from him. And Pumpkin is also a very good card we can get. You can actually get Pumpkin by dueling Deckmaster K, if he fuses it and you defeat it, of course. But this is a way easier to get it. As I mentioned before, the deck leader automatically shows up in the slot. So every time you defeat this guy, you have a chance to get the Pumpkin. So, or you could just fail it, So I would have really loved a Dark Energy there, but we didn't get it. But again, it's not the end of the world. You can always go straight back in and duel them again. If you really wanted to, you can just get multiple copies of Pumpkin and then keep Pumpkins face up in defense and win the whole game if you really, really want. But yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go in and surrender 3 times. And I just want to do it to prove a point, so I don't want you to reset the game, like load out of the game and load back in to clear your record of losses. I think it's not a very nice thing to do. Just pretend that we lost legitimately. Pretend we're a new player and these surrenders I'm doing are real losses, because at the start of the game, you're definitely going to be losing. I would be seriously impressed if someone managed to win their first duel in this game without having endured a loss or seeing any game footage, because it's quite difficult. The reason why I think you should keep your losses, though, is they add up to adding reincarnation. So every 5 duels you have that are tallied, so the custom duel doesn't count, but all the ones in the main game do. Every 5 duels allows you to reincarnate, and it doesn't matter if you win or lose those duels, so technically you can just surrender 5 times in a row and you can do this. But I'm just demonstrating this because of the absence of losses that, most new players would have. They start the game, probably be 1, 2, maybe 3 duels in, duelists in, before they have already suffered like 5 to 10 losses maybe. So we're going to do one more surrender here, and to repeat myself, I'm like a broken record, aren't I? We will have 5 duels total, some will be losses, but that'll let us reincarnate, so I can demonstrate that mechanic to you guys. Because reincarnation, I think, is really, really, really important for new players. It's the best way to get really good cards as a new player. Yeah, it's risk-free. You can just save the game, and if you don't reincarnate what you want, you can just exit out and load back in. Alright, so yeah, you can see 2 win, 3 losses, that's a total of 5. Every 5 duels you can reincarnate. And yeah, the reason why I wanted to get that Eternal Rest before was to demonstrate the power of reincarnating high deck cost cards. Generally, anything around 40 is good. 50 is really good as well. I'm just going to reincarnate Skullbird because I'm not actually going to add that in the deck. And you get some pretty useful stuff. Or, potentially not so useful stuff. Ancient One of the Deep Forest is not a very good card for a zombie deck. Nor is Pale Beast. Not a very good card in general at all. And Hercules Beetle is not useful for us either. So, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to exit out of the game. That's why you save before you reincarnate, by the way. So, yeah. If you reincarnate and get shit, then you can just exit out. Now, actually, go to the custom duel. Quickly, I'm going to grab a PlayStation 1 memory card to demonstrate something. Alright, so, what you can also do in the custom duel, if you have a PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 memory card, is stick them into the second slot. Make sure the PS2 card doesn't have another Duels of the Roses save file. I don't actually have a PS2 card on me that doesn't have a Duels of the Roses save file, and I can't be bothered deleting it and starting a new video, so I'm actually going to just stick a PlayStation 1 card in the second memory card slot, and what this will do is actually give us a different deck master. This is a very, very, very cheeky thing to do for new players. I must not have read properly. Or maybe this one's broken. I don't know. I literally grabbed this off the shelf of my roommate's gaming collection, so let's hope it reads. There we go. So yeah, if you stick a PS1 card in the second memory slot, you get a duel against Exodia the Forbidden One, which seems pretty ominous, but this is a very, very, very handy thing to do for new players who are having trouble beating the game. First of all, though, I'm just going to quickly demonstrate reincarnation. The video's like almost an hour now, so instead of adding Pumpkin into the deck, which normally you do, you know, you can just take out anything like Goki Bore and add it in. But I'll actually reincarnate instead, so you guys can see the power of reincarnating a card of around 40 deck costs. So yeah, already straight away we've got a card that was better than all those three we got by reincarnating Skullbird. Solomon's Lawbook is a very, very, very good card. It's basically this game's Pot of Greed. Maha Vilo, very, very strong effect as well. Might not be considered a good card for our deck, but if we had a lot of power-ups, we'd be able to use this effect very, very well. And Perfect Magic Jammer. This is another very, very, very good card for the campaign. You'll notice a difference between reincarnating cards around certain deck costs is there's actually quite a few spell cards, like, usually they're at intervals, so they'll always be at 30 deck cost, or 35, 40, then 50, that's usually how it goes. But monsters are all across the board, so if you reincarnate something around 36, 37 deck cost, you're kind of risking getting all those deck costs between 35 and 40, meaning you'll get a lot of monsters, but reincarnating something closer to like 40, there's quite a handful of spell cards at around 40 deck cost, so you could get like Tremendous Fire and stuff even. Yeah, already Solomon's Lawbook and Magic Jammer are two really good cards, and I'm glad we actually got those two when I was about to show off the Deckmaster T, because Deckmaster T actually has two of those cards that we reincarnated for. Again, SP recharge rate you may as well max out, so it just makes it easier for you. And then, you know, just pick your own terrain, because it doesn't really matter. Again, it's 100% inconsequential to lose against these custom duelists, but if you win, you can get their cards in their graveyard slot, so anytime you're stuck and you want to make your deck stronger, go into this mode, and you can duel out with a Deckmaster K, or if you want, Deckmaster T, even Deckmaster S, if you have a spare PS2 memory card. Perfect draw. He has a lot of trap cards which might slow us down, but we'll just keep sending monsters at him. And you can also attack the face-down cards to reveal them. Or move your card next to it if it's a trap that might trigger it, which will send it to the graveyard. All we want is the enemy's graveyard to be full of good cards, and then we win. That's actually good, Paralyzing Potion, because that means it's in his graveyard now, so we have a chance to get that. Paralyzing Potion is really strong card, guys. Really strong card. Let's do a cheeky little Skeleton Warrior. I don't know if this is a trap card, but it doesn't matter, because we can just destroy him anyways. So at this point, you've noticed he's already pretty low. Next time we can probably kill him, actually, but you may as well just let him play out all the cards that he wants to. Curse Breaker, maybe? Yep. So we're not really at any risk of losing against this guy, so, you can kind of just sit here and let him play as many cards as he wants. I'm not going to go on forever, obviously, because, you know, this video's already been an hour long. Ooh, an Exodia piece. Alright, so Exodia pieces don't show up in the graveyard slot, so we can actually wait another turn. Time Seal. Alright, we can't actually get that in the graveyard slot as well, either. So what I'm actually going to do is just finish him off here. Otherwise, you know, he might just lock us out and would have to eventually just go over our monsters and kill him anyways. We just won't drag it out any longer than it needs to be. He's already used a few strong cards. Curse Breaker and Paralyzing Potion are actually really good cards, for the campaign especially. And he's got a Match Jammer too, which is always nice. And we missed everything, but you guys get the point. You can always go back in if you miss everything and go... He's going to keep playing the same cards. I'm pretty sure this dude has multiple copies of all the cards, but... Look, anyways, the point of this was to sort of give you guys guidance on starting the game if you found it too hard, so... anything past that, you can always use the resources in the game to farm more cards. You can always edit your deck. And don't be afraid, guys, and enjoy the rest of your playthrough. Bye-bye.